The wait is over, it's your turn. Today, gameranx brings you the 10 best turn-based strategy games of 2016. Number 10, Gremlins Incorporated, which is a game about a bunch of capitalist gremlins. It plays out as a board game, and the object of it is to get prestige, cash, and obviously political power. The means by which you are able to get further in the game include corruption, stealing, extortion, paying off the police to arrest other players, and even manipulating elections. Now I'm gonna go ahead and say this is probably one of the cooler computer board games I've played, and I'm really eager to get some people together for it because I did enjoy my time with it. It has a pretty broad and expository outlook on our current economic and social systems, as well as a unique art style and aesthetic. Seriously, give this one a shot. At least a shot. Number 9, Master of Orion is a turn-based 4X, which functions as a reboot of the old sci-fi turn-based strategy games and has similar gameplay to the original, however, much better graphics, seriously. It's nice because it has somewhat of a balance between macro and micro management, and some of your favorite voice actors, including Mark Hamill, have voices in this game. It's a really interesting game and provides the kind of depth you might want, as well as some more narrative elements that you wouldn't typically get out of a strategy-oriented game. Now, we saw a lot more of that in the 90s, so it's nice to see that kind of show itself again, and obviously you have to have Mark Hamill involved if you do that. Number 8 is Atlas Reactor, which is currently in open beta. It's a 4-phase, 20-second turn PvP battle arena that kind of gives you a rather different take on turn-based strategy. In some ways, it kind of feels like Overwatch if Overwatch were a turn-based strategy game. And it doesn't just mirror the gameplay in its own weird way, but it does mirror the aesthetic a bit as well. Granted, it has its own unique style, but it will remind you of that just a bit. All in all, it's different. What really is yet to be seen is if a community forms around it and it has lasting power, but the game itself, I really enjoy. It's in free open beta now if you want to try it out, and it launches next month. Number 7 is Worms W.M.D, which, if you're aware of what Worms is, you're pretty much aware of what this game is. Now, that's both good and bad. There are obviously things that have been added to it. There are a couple more levels of detail. The graphics are a lot better than they used to be. But the gameplay is familiar, and if you like Worms gameplay, there's nothing better. That's exactly what you want out of Worms. You want an updated version of it that you can play on all the most recent hardware and not have it look like garbage. And also over all of the multiplayer servers, just having everything work right is great. Now, if you don't like Worms, you're probably not going to like Worms WMD. I've been a huge fan of Worms since the 90s. It's a game that I like to play simply because the gameplay is great, in my opinion. If you like Worms or anything similar to Worms, you're gonna like Worms WMD. Number 6, the Banner Saga 2 is the sequel to the highly lauded Banner Saga game, which kind of gives a taste of that Final Fantasy Tactics style gameplay with a completely different aesthetic. Now, what's cool about the second one is that where the original built all of the systems in a manner that made the game very interesting, this is built out from there, giving you a world that has a lot more depth. Characters have a lot more depth as well. It has a story with a lot more variety, and the combat itself is fairly reflective of this as well. I would say the Banner Saga 2 is noticeably better than the first game. And considering how good the first game was, it's a no-brainer. Number 5, Duelyst is a free-to-play Fire Emblem style tactical strategy / card game that also adds elements of Hearthstone in there as well. Now, this game I played way back when it was in alpha, and it's developed a lot since then. I really enjoy this game. It doesn't have a story, it's legitimately just a duel game, a player versus player or player versus AI game. But it is perhaps one of the most enjoyable games like that I have ever played. And I'm not joking. This is something that I've played over a period of time and watched it develop into something that I can only describe as special. Number 4, Halcyon 6 Starbase Commander, which is somewhere between Final Fantasy and XCOM. Now, specifically, the combat plays off very much like Final Fantasy 6, 7, 8, and 9, utilizing the active time battle system, which is a pseudo-turn-based, mainly plays out like a turn-based, but it adds an element of need to move as opposed to need to sit and strategize. It's a game that takes place after humanity has expanded into space, a pretty powerful alien race attacking and attempting to take down humanity's superiority. Now, if you've watched our videos, you know how much I love Final Fantasy's active time battle system, so I'm there. Sci-fi and active time battle, give me. Number 3, Sorcerer King Rivals is a fantasy 4X plus the idea of a main villain. Now, I think that's a really good idea. I think it's a cool addition to the genre, and it adds a spin that you really don't see in other 4X games. It kind of gives you a goal, and sometimes these games don't have definitive ends, which, I don't know, it's nice to have a win condition, which is overthrowing or possibly replacing the Sorcerer King. As you can see from the footage, the graphics are unique as well. It's a beautiful game and provides a bit of a unique take on a genre that, let's be honest, is a little bit overpopulated at the moment. Number 2, this would hardly be a turn-based strategy list for 2016 without saying XCOM 2, which is pretty much, in my opinion, the definitive turn-based strategy. XCOM sort of brought the genre back to the forefront, and XCOM 2 just developed on the stuff that they brought in that reboot in such a noticeable and interesting way that sometimes you forget you're playing a turn-based strategy game because these battles can feel so freaking tense. There's not a lot I can say about XCOM that I haven't already said in about a million other videos, other than it's a really, really good turn-based strategy game. And if you're a fan of the genre and haven't played it, at least given it a chance, I don't know what you're doing. And finally, number 1 is Civilization 6, which promises to integrate all of the developments from the expansions on Civilization 5 into one cohesive game. I think the most interesting development is the idea that they don't want to have civilizations follow such a set path in between the various periods of development that players are meant to experience. They want it to be a little bit more messy, essentially. Civilization has always been kind of the leader for all of these things, so I'm extremely interested to see what they come up with for this version, especially knowing all of the stuff that was added in the expansions and that the teams who made the expansions were prioritized to the main game's development once they were done with the expansions, and essentially they want to make the biggest civilization yet, and that's very exciting if you ask me. What's your favorite turn-based strategy game this year? Is it out yet, or do you think it's probably gonna be Civilization 6? Let's talk pros and cons in the comments. I'm pretty interested. If you enjoyed this video, please click like, and if you're not subscribed, now is a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every single day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at FalconTheHero, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.